Welcome to another episode of the Harbor Podcast. I'm the Kino Cowboy. I'm back with Scott the Expat, Boston Flasher, and our brand new guest, Scotty Leonard. Look at him. Hey, everybody.
Much more handsome than the rest of us.
I know, dude.
Pleasure
for yourself.
dude.
Speak for yourself.
I'm among gods.
We got the old Apex Scotty over here.
No, we're gonna have to fight now. We got two Scots, and we both have two first names that people probably get.
Oh.
It's not enough room on this screen for the two of us.
There can only be one. It's a okay. Highlander reference.
I'll off myself.
We'll make this easy for you.
We've started a new kind of episode where we bring on a guest and talk about their movie of choice. Scotty, why don't you introduce what film we're going to be talking about?
And introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Scotty Leonard. I consider myself to be a bit of a filmmaker. I've been following this podcast ever since I came across a documentary called Christmas in Vegas, created by the illustrious Kino Cowboy and his crew. And the film that I want to speak about this week is it's Joel Haver's Pretend That You Love Me. It's a feature film that was posted for free to YouTube by he makes a lot of comedy videos, kind of a lot of other stuff, but the thing that I respect the most about him is that he makes feature films, puts them online, and is extremely talented at the style of filmmaking that he has perfected over the years. So that's
right.
Let's get into it.
Interesting film, man. I literally finished it like 20 minutes ago, and it was I feel very cathartic about the day now.
I feel very cathartic, and this is actually a big. I'll talk about that. We'll get into it. This hit me at like the right time in my life, and it's in where I am. Had you guys, Adrian and Casher, had you heard of Joel Haver before? I mean,
No.
were you how familiar? You hadn't really at all?
No.
Okay. Well, he shows up in my algorithm, especially if I'm not signed into YouTube or like whatever.
Yeah.
And here's that, because I'm such a contrarian, pseudo intellectual. I'm like, God, YouTube is all this like bottom barrel content. But really, if you look at his short videos, it's a lot better than like a React channel or even a lot of the YouTube sketches that are very like X in real life, blah, blah, blah. He does some of that, but there's a better joke or observation.
Tell me there's shit on YouTube that's better than reaction channels.
Not
That's a
not this podcast.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, but we need Sniper Wolf on this podcast.
Most critical.
And by Sniper Wolf, I mean the boss from Metal Gear Solid in 1990. No, I had no idea until Adrian sent me the link to this, like, hey, this is what we're talking about, that he did feature things or anything of that sort. And one thing it immediately made me think of, and that's why I think, Scotty, you're into correct me if I'm wrong, you're into the super low budget indie guerrilla filmmaking, punk rock style of filmmaking.
Yeah, it's actually becoming known as a movement called folk filmmaking.
Really?
Yeah. There's
cool.
There's hundreds of them out there.
Well, and I think it's really interesting that I feel like, I don't know, so much of making it as an artist now is almost getting a following on social media, doing something that's palatable, and then flipping to what you actually want to do. I clearly think he enjoys making short videos and stuff, but I think he's like, okay, now I can trick people into watching like full-length films, because the algorithm typically isn't going to recommend 90-minute indie movies on YouTube.
I guess that's something we should have been doing, but instead I went full esoteric with everything.
Yeah, we went full like, hey, what if we were David Lynch but without the budget or talent?
Twice the autism.
Yeah, and way less sober.
Well, I mean,
one was the cool things that I saw on it. You said it came at a perfect time for you, Scott. Looking at the comments, I went through the comments, which you're not supposed to do on YouTube videos, but you go through the comments, and one of the first things that's on there is a comment about how this dude, he was watching it and he was like, this is absolutely whole soul crushing and exactly what I fucking needed. And going in there, even in the description, Joel is like, this may not be something you can watch all at once. This is something that is kind of hard to watch, and it's been my passion project for a year. And yeah, I'm curious to know why it hit you so hard at a good time in your life, Scott. Like,
I'm really lonely. I haven't felt the touch of a woman in 3 years, and
you've been
no, and I'm actually
in Spain.
There's that's also jokes aside, I am unless Netflix Spain wants to give me a comedy special deal, which I don't think is going to happen, leaving Spain, because I'm tired of teaching abroad. Scotty, I don't know if you listen to this podcast, I'm Scott the expat. That's a running joke, and they have to get in every jab they can at me until I move back home and never have to hear that damn joke again. But because I hate that word and they know it. But no, so I'm definitely at a transitional point in my life, and I've been, struggling for connection. And I think I have a feeling, and this is just a guess, I almost wonder if this movie started being filmed pre-pandemic and then it kind of got into the pandemic as it went on. It felt like that.
In the film, he talks about filming last summer. So I assume it's summer 2019. And then it goes all the way into, about March.
Which is interesting because you do have to address it, especially in a film that's about social isolation and just even about media consumption. I think the character is a film geek. He's playing a version of himself, honestly, who really balances. He's awkward and charming without leaning into creepy or incel. He balances that really well, and I caught that right away. Because for a minute I was like, "Is this going to be like a slasher movie? Is he going to
Well, Scott, have you ever been so lonely that you decide to play 4-dimensional chess and plan a movie about talking to girls and kissing girls so you can actually have contact with girls?
No, I normally just
that's what the creepy part is. It's down bad, but it's not the down bad funny way. It's a down bad fucking sad reality way.
Yeah, but there's layers to this movie that was making me like, what the fuck? And the 50 minutes of this movie is that stage of talking to a girl you like, just exasperated. And some of that was just cringy or whatever, but a lot of it just reminded me of my past and those specific moments, those weeks where you're kind of in the talking phase and it's all kind of cutesy. You don't know how to act. You're still trying to be yourself without turning them off.
Yeah, without really being yourself. Well, this is, and I guess to briefly describe the movie, if you don't know what we're talking about, and we're going to spoil it, but this is basically filming kind of almost fly on the wall style filmmaking. Him going on a bunch of awkward first dates. It's way more complicated than that. There's meta elements. We'll get into it. But there is that point in a relationship, even with friends, where you don't know enough about each other to have a real conversation. So you're not even talking to a person yet. I mean, even if, have you ever tried to meet up with a friend from work and then you're just and you start talking about work because you don't know what else. Oh, do we exist outside this relationship, or what's happening? Oh yeah, movies. You ever seen a movie? I've seen a movie. Have you seen a movie? Oh man, those moving pictures.
He's like
watching this. I rewatched this before, again, just to make sure it was fresh in my mind before we talked about it, and I was like, I feel so uncomfortable that I asked these guys to watch this at certain points. And I'm just like, what a psychopath move of me to force this upon you guys.
Scotty's gonna call us back in a week and be like, "Hey, can we re-record some things in that podcast? Can you guys come over and like, can we film something?
Can we all like?
My back's been hurting. Can you?"
And then I'm gonna try to kiss you.
I mean,
right.
No, to try.
You know.
we can have fun, man. It's cool. I liked the even though he is, you know, sad and lonely and all that shit, all the conversations he had felt, even though they were acted at the beginning, felt organic as fuck. Like it truly felt like he was presenting himself in a way that was like his best. And when you get towards the end, it's like he's just like a completely different person. It's weird. It's like imposter syndrome.
well, he's clearly playing a character, or a version of himself. I at least hope he doesn't dress like that all the time for his sake.
Yes,
But-
but as someone who knows nothing about it and went in completely blind, the first 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, okay, so is this supposed to be stage? What is this? Is this like just a weird project? And then purposely showing, you know, like the lav mics attached to the girls was very significant to me. I was like, well, okay.
See, I didn't see that at first.
Yeah.
See,
So I didn't see the lav mics. I saw them in later shots and stuff. But
I got fucked up and watched like Endgame and shit last night. So I was like, wait, are these like all different timelines?
Shut the fuck up, dude.
is everything a multiverse now? Is LeBron James gonna pop into Joel Haver's video with
I hate that
Marvin the
that's what my
Martian?
mind went to. I was like fresh off of watching all this shit all fucked up last night.
Oh, geez.
Multiple timelines where I'm gonna go.
Okay. Well, I actually thought there was a moment.
Oh, nice. Very professional.
There was a moment where I didn't really think this, but I thought, did he invite girls to his home without them knowing they're being filmed and put it into a film, which is kind of the intent.
I think
You're supposed to
wonder
question
that, at first,
which is fun. Also, the first dates, this is not even really a thing of the movie. The idea of doing a first date at somebody's home, especially if you're a woman going to a guy's home, is weird and threatening anyway. And then being cool when he's showing you magic tricks. That was the most cringy part. The rest of it wasn't. As soon as he whipped out the cards, I'm like, okay, fuck this guy. Like,
the line was like, "Is it too early for magic tricks?" I thought that was cute.
it is cute, but I have sworn enemyship with magicians. So practitioners of the magic arts, because I'm Mormon.
Are you?
I don't know. This made me appreciate those times before the relationship begins, because I've been in a relationship for 2.5 years and I kind of forgot about the starting stages and how it was different. And
It's fun. It's painful, but it's fun.
Called the honeymoon phase for a reason.
Yeah, and
not even the kind of the pre-honeymoon phase, even, which
Yeah.
I've actually never. Pretty much everyone I've dated, almost everyone I've dated, I've known in some other capacity before we started dating. So I've never, I don't know, maybe like one girl we kind of had that, but it was so it's a weird aspect of modern dating too, meeting people online and then you don't know who they are, and then like, oh man, your filter was not on. That's a shame.
Got catfished.
Oh.
I wish that would have been the fucking twist. Just the whole
Ooh.
Nev Campbell comes down and is like, "We've seen these text messages from you. You're not
No,
actually."
no.
Another
Turns out he was catfishing them.
a clear example of just because it's zero budget filmmaking doesn't mean you can't line up some great shots and bring in the emotion.
I mean, that's all you really need. It's naturalistic acting, which I think is a good thing, because
It works because
a lot of
how
it
meta it is.
improvised, and that adds to the realness. But also, it's hard. You really have to be a good actor if you look at a lot of Hollywood scripts, even successful, even award-winning, because it's almost people praise naturalism in acting, but sometimes I think can be more difficult to sell something that's not naturalistic. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
That's okay.
I mean,
It sounds
obviously
like you're about
this
to peddle some fucking pills like Alex Jones.
No.
We're not talking about natural and holistic. I've got these right here.
That's just the and him getting the girls, because at first I wasn't sure, you know, if they were in on it or not. So when every time he got them to kiss them, I was like, I was barely able to like look at the screen.
Man, him rewatching, cutting down that snippet and just
Yeah.
replaying that kiss made me.
I knew it was coming. I knew when we saw
it
each of
made
the
me
girls
so
kiss him,
fucking uncomfortable.
I knew it was coming back in a good way, and sure enough, yeah, it was very purposeful. And God, like, how quick into talking to a girl do you normally kiss them?
20 minutes.
It seems like he went on several dates.
You think so?
I mean, at least a couple. I mean, you know, I think by second date you definitely want to kiss. If you didn't have it on the first date. I mean, I would think
everything.
And then there's levels of kiss. And there were levels of kissing. No. So there's like a peck, like a goodbye peck, and then there's like we're making out, and then there's, you know, so it depends.
Yeah, what happens after that?
I'm writing a pickup artist book.
What happens after that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I usually just I cry.
Hey, he did it too.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I liked that when he was the movie inside the movie, he made the character deal with the same sort of like back pains and his dad dealing with cancer, and it transferred over to the real sad line.
He mixed in.
Did Joel Haver really have a tumor on his spine?
I'm not sure, but from what I understand, like that was actually his dad like dying.
Yeah, that was his dad dying.
Sad.
Yeah. And
really
I've never seen a film where they incorporate like a real, you know, funeral, and that hit me really hard. I've dealt with a lot of death recently, so I thought that was really profound thinking about it. And let's be real, I'm someone who's made films where I incorporate real shit into my films and mix it with fictionalized shit. You know, both Movement and Summon of Saturn are loosely based off of shit, you know, and some of the
Movement is almost more documentary than anything else.
Yeah. And so
you should send it to Joel Haver, by the way.
It really impacted me hard. And just him getting that footage of him bullshitting with his dad in the doctor's office, you could tell how important that was to him. I don't know. It was really fascinating filmmaking, really refreshing. Because usually we talk about big movies on here. I'm glad we're finally talking about smaller shit.
Yeah,
man, what a refreshing movie for me.
No, it was, and because that's something you can only do in folk filmmaking. Can you imagine what like lawyers would say if they're like, or like insurance, if we're like, we want to show you really in the cancer ward and a real funeral and all that, and then audiences are gonna not like it because it's
maybe in like a Sacha Baron Cohen film.
Yeah, Sacha, if I was in the ICU, Sacha Baron Cohen showed up, I'd be like, you go nuts, you do what you want, okay? You can desecrate my corpse, I don't care. I'm not using it.
Use you as a hand puppet.
He can do that anytime.
So Scotty, obviously this film you liked enough to recommend it to us for the podcast. What brought you to it, and how did it impact you?
So it actually, what the story of how I found it was, I have this really good friend who reminds me, like he's a friend who I've done a lot of projects with, but he literally reminds me of Joel Haver. Like his personality is very similar. And he sent me this so Joel does these things where he makes these animated films that are like
rotoscoped, kind of.
Yeah, it's like he uses AI, like this AI program to like turn video footage into animation. And he made this like the most entertaining how-to video on how to do it. And my friend sent it to me and was like, hey, I want to do this with you. And I was like, we ended up like kind of experimenting with it a little bit. But that video, I was like, who is this guy? And I like was like looking into his short films. I saw he did feature films, and I just clicked on this one. It was like his most recent one at the time. And like I thought I was just gonna watch like a few minutes of it, but like the first 10 minutes I was just bewildered as to what I was watching. And then like I like as the film progressed, I like just didn't realize that I like lost my whole afternoon watching it, and it just was extremely impactful for me to like see an underground kind of filmmaker who, because for a long time he wasn't like, I think he's pretty big now in certain circles, but like for a long time he was like 1,000 subscribers, and he's talked about that. And like to see somebody so small making, like, I think he's made like 9 or 10 feature films now, and it was very inspiring to me. And yeah, through him I started looking into this like whole movement he's a part of underground YouTube movies that people, but the I guess the story itself too is something that like the way he combines his actual life with like like staged stuff, and how he discusses the stage stuff, and then like at the ending, like I'm sure it is staged, but like is it? Like I like sometimes you wonder if like that actually, I don't know, it's just so real.
There are
and
blurred
raw.
lines in it for sure, man.
Yeah.
I was like, this seems a little real.
Like,
The emotions are real, which is what
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also a clever way if people know you as a social media person via YouTube to get them more interested.
I'm all for this movement of putting, full feature films on YouTube, man.
I mean,
Yeah,
shit,
'cause
you
we're
better
poor.
be. Shit, I've done it 3 times.
I'm on it now that I've seen this.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
before it was kind of like, this is some, sorry you can't get a distributor for your bullshit.
Oh man.
Movement is available on Blu-ray.
Is it really actually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Where
can
would
send you a
one
copy.
purchase? Oh, I mean, I'm down to buy it too.
I mean, well, you sent me a flower hour.
I mean,
so.
you can cash at me. I got PayPal.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but
We'll send you a copy.
the last scene, I was legitimately wondering if she was in on the last scene or not. That's the big question for me.
I was kind of wondering that, although we're getting definitely beyond spoilers territory now. The kiss, I was kind of like, well, that's probably not.
I was surprised that he brought her back and not the girl that like he right before he started singing the song didn't bring her back, because he brought the Spanish girl that I felt like he had the real fake connection with, and then the other girl was the other one that I thought had the real fake connection with. But he brought the girl that likes to watch fucking Friends, which is, I don't know if that's real or fake, but it's still annoying.
That'd be an instant dump for me.
Yeah. No, we're not watching that. But it was interesting that he picked her. I don't know.
God, I'm surprised the Spanish girl wasn't watching Friends, because they're obsessed with anything from 20 years ago, it seems like. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
We got the next rant of the day.
I know they got Friends on Netflix, and everybody's like, Friends. I'm like, you guys, you're all
Behind.
Portugal should invade you. I don't know.
This is fine. Too soon, bro. No.
What do you mean too soon? When did Portugal invade them?
I
They're
could
buddies.
see the future.
No, they're buddies. Portugal's like the Canada of Spain. They're fine.
I just know the band.
Now French, they hate the French though. That's fair.
Is it fair?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
know.
It definitely is. All right, and Albanians.
Okay, now let's reel it in. You can bring Dimitri on here to shit talk me, but that's it.
Okay, I can't do it. I have too much white privilege.
Yeah, great movie, man. Go for it.
No, I was just thinking after the buildup of the first part of the film, and then it hits the song, there's this immediate release, and your mind just kind of like explodes for a second, and you're like, okay, now I see where it's going. It's almost like a movie orgasm of a sort. You know what I mean?
And then there's a refractory period for like
I had a sigh of relief realizing that first half was a movie. I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, oh, okay. It's
almost, I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could break this into more act structures, which is kind of bleh, but it's pretty much a 2-act movie, and the first act is an hour. I mean, it's a 30-minute movie attached to an hour movie in a way.
I agree.
Which is, it's an interesting structure, especially for YouTube. I also want to go back to like how smart it was to do the first 10 minutes the way it was, because like I was honestly not super excited to watch this movie. But also I've kind of getting, I don't know, I'm weird. Sometimes I'm not excited to watch any movies, and then I start watching it and I like it. So that's just me. But the it really shows how important it is to really hook people with the, just because you're on YouTube, you got Chocolate Rain right there. You know, how do you get people to not click out?
How do
By
you
making
want to
them-
watch Chocolate Rain when you watch this?
Dude, I still like Tazone, but
He's a nice guy.
dude, he's cool. He has like PhD in economics or something.
He doesn't like
Yeah.
gay people.
Yeah. But the I don't know. I just want to reiterate how brilliant that ending is. Can you imagine? One of the cringiest parts was him showing like, oh, I make YouTube videos. Do you want to see? And can you imagine Adrian on the first date? Like, oh, I make YouTube videos. Here's one where I put shit all over my hands and wash it off with Germans.
And that was
I,
like 7 years ago.
I have a little setup on my bookshelf with like DVDs and Blu-rays and games or whatever. And I've had a few friends of mine who've come over and be like, "What's Moon Man?" I'm like, "We're not ready yet.
We're not that close."
We're
Now,
not
I've said, because like no girl, and this is probably smart on them, I've ever dated has ever actually sat through Moon Men. And the first one who does, like, I'm gonna wife her up. That's kind of my litmus test.
I've put it on at parties before just to fucking, I don't know.
I know we don't mention them. Cody Long told me he got kicked out of a bar in Colorado because he put it on at a bar.
Wow.
It played for a minute. And the bartender was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Fuck yeah, dude. That's fucking tight.
Yeah, maybe we should send
Fuck that
Moon
bar.
to this guy. See if
He
likes
says
it.
he'll watch features that are 40 minutes or above. You get some of this and or Christmas in Vegas.
Ooh.
You know, I mean,
yeah, no, he made a promise to anybody who makes a feature film like us type. If we send it to him, he'll watch it and that's it. He's
dangerous.
just gonna watch
Yeah.
it.
Then he'll
what if you
rate
did an
it.
Andy Warhol thing and you were eating a Whopper for like 40 minutes, and that was you just sent that to him? That'd be a dick move.
Shameful.
I don't want to spoil it, but I have something in the works along those lines.
Good.
How do you eat a Whopper for 40 minutes, dude? That's so long to eat a fucking Whopper.
One bite at a time,
Shoot.
like anything.
Yeah.
There's so much of this. I think it was part of it. I almost felt like this character. It's definitely, there's a lot of this about how watching too many movies can destroy how you connect with other people. I mean, there's very clearly, I might even pull it up. No, I won't do it right now. There's a shot in the movie where it's him surrounded by his DVD collection. You see like a collector's edition 300 and all these, almost some like film bro-y movies. And then he's like calling the girl or whatever. But I think that's another thing that I don't know. Can you guys relate to that? Because I can. Because sometimes I don't know how to relate to people without talking about memes and movies and making sarcastic jokes. But there's also something beautiful. I think I had this beautiful moment yesterday where I went to the park with some friends because I have antibodies now. And if I had written down most of our conversation, most of it would have been boring. But I'm really trying to, because I can be so cynical about human nature and the fact that humans are a cancer. But I'm trying to enjoy having conversations, even if I don't enjoy the conversations themselves. I'm enjoying small talk.
Absolutely.
Which is something I think comes with maturity and just acceptance of what this life is. Which again, I think that fits well with the timing of this and the pandemic, which wasn't planned. And it also, in a way, celebrates how banal things are as opposed to how they aren't in entertainment. What are you fucking laughing at?
You're sure the pandemic wasn't planned?
Have you seen Borat 2?
I couldn't help, even though this was made or released before, I couldn't help but think of Bo Burnham's Inside while watching it.
Yeah,
I
me
did
too.
man. Especially because he shot a lot of that in his fucking living room, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of living room shots.
It was like,
And you like this better, I assume.
oh yeah. Yes, I did. That's just me though.
No, I get it.
That's cool.
What's your opinion of Inside?
Me, I think there's a lot of cool, funny stuff and interesting stuff, but s- uh, n- some of it just goes on too long for me. Some of it, I'm gonna quote Family Guy here, insists on itself. I say that to piss off my roommate, but yeah, I don't know. I like. I think it's a success. I'm glad people flock to it.
I think it's important.
I think it's important that so many people flock to it and that it was such a success.
I do agree, and I'm saying this as a person who's a big fan of it, and is in ways that thing changed my life or just my perspective on comedy and art and life. But it's probably too long. There's some songs that could be cut or some things.
I don't know,
But
man. White woman Instagram is pretty profound.
here's the thing. I like white woman Instagram, but doesn't need to be there. Could that have been a different YouTube thing, or like here's the uncut director's cut version with some extra for pacing reason. But also I do wonder, this is another thing with YouTube, because I've seen some of his other films on there have somewhat unconventional running times. This is like 93 minutes, which is right on the money. But some of them are like a minute 12 or something like that. And I think it's nice that you don't have to rely on how many people can we fit in a theater in a given day, or do we have to have an intermission, or do we have to have this for streaming services, which streaming services do give some leeway. Like if you're watching I don't know, I haven't watched Book of Boba Fett, but I'm sure some of or even Mandalorian, some of those are like 42 minutes, some of those are an hour to blah, blah, blah. So I do like that trend of stories being as long as they need to be. But I do think that's the advantage of this.
Sometimes it's a disadvantage.
Sometimes it's a disadvantage.
The original revival for Netflix was they brought back Arrested Development for a 4th season, and they made their episodes like 30, 36 minutes, whatever. That was a clear case where it would have really helped by trimming it down and cutting it real tight. But
even if it wasn't 22, even as like 28.
they later recut the season years later, and I feel like it worked a little bit better.
Yeah.
I still like season 4 a lot because it's way different, but that was a clear example of when sometimes it's good to have restraint. But I do agree, it's nice. A lot of other shows have been pulling it off better though. So,
I think that was just a growing pain we have with streaming.
Yeah.
I even heard, I never watched the show. I'm not really the target demographic, but I'd heard that criticism of girls, like some of which was.
You're not the targeted demographic for girls?
No, I'm not. I dated a girl, watched it once, and it was a bunch of white women in Manhattan eating yogurt. I'm not even joking. I was just like, I'm not watching.
Is that the one with Adam Driver?
Yeah, good suit.
Oh, yeah.
I do like Adam Driver.
It's got Lena Dunham and all that shit in it.
Yeah, it's I don't even know. No, this movie. So Joel Haver, does he have an acting background? I think he went to film school, even though he's kind of anti-film school.
Actually, I'm not sure. He definitely has the film school of having made hundreds of minutes of content,
which is
like me.
Yeah,
which that's the film. That's the best film school. God, Scotty, are you or were you a film student?
I was, and
aren't they the worst?
I hate them.
I didn't even. I shared a building with them when I was doing journalism classes, and I was just like, these bastards in the break room.
Yeah, I was one of those bastards.
Although then I was writing like movie reviews for the paper instead of real journalism, so I was like, The won an award-winning journalist here.
Wow.
Arkansas College Media Association, 3rd place. So
I know this movie definitely has me wanting to seek out more of this. You coined it folk.
Folk filmmaking. I'm gonna go balls deep on that.
I'm definitely gonna be searching for some goldies because this is
I've got 3 examples that you might want to look into.
Okay.
No.
Good.
I'm talking about my movies.
Then I'm talking about your movies. No, sorry.
Or you can start with for people that don't know, Scotty helmed a project where we put together how many short films was it in
60.
Yeah, it's an hour long. It's called Flower Hour. and 61-minute short films. I'm featured. One of mine is featured in it. I could go get the DVD, but I'm lazy. But
You're gonna go get the DVD.
put a
Well,
little description in the bottom.
Well, Scotty, I'm a bit curious because I never met you until this Zoom call. I think I'd heard Adrian like mention your name in passing. Oh, because he had mentioned you're a huge Vegas Christmas in Vegas.
You're the ego
you're the Christmas in Vegas fan. And but I'm curious, and you can promote yourself a little bit here, of course. You said this movie is greatly influential on it. When did you first watch it, and has it influenced later projects? If you can talk about them, if they're not still in development.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I watched it, I want to say mid 2020 or no, 2021, I think. And it had been out for a little while already. But I was working on for all of 2021. I made this movie where I'd add 15 seconds to it every day for a year. And it was really bizarre seeing Bo Burnham's inside and also Joel Haver's
Pretend That You Love Me.
Yeah, Pretend That You Love Me. Because like it was what I was doing, and it kind of freaked me out that I was like, oh, I'm doing this, like, but these guys did it first. Like, and so like, am I stealing it? I don't care. But yeah, so I saw it like 6 months ago, and I just felt very inspired to like complete the stuff that I was working on. Like I hadn't even released Flower Hour yet. I'd been sitting on it for almost 2 years. And just so yeah, anyway, I just found that whole movement so incredibly inspiring, because I was making these projects that I felt like had no home. Like no film festival wants to show my crap. No streaming service really wants like some guy running around with a camcorder. But to see people making this stuff, and some of it being really good, and like having audiences of just people obsessed with these well, not in the case of Inside, but just like with these smaller creators creating things that were to the best of their ability, was just extremely inspiring to me, to just see that there is an audience and there is interest, and you can do it without making money, and that doesn't mean that you're a failure, was something that was very important for me. Because at least like when I don't like in film school, which like they're like talk about, oh, this is how you get a producer's attention, this is how you prove to yourself that you're worth their time, this is how you get an audience, this is how blah 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 blah. And like I always rejected that. And so then there's like the alternate where it's like, oh, you have to make experimental films, they have to be like I've seen so many experimental films where I'm just like, was this just someone like opening and closing a door for 5 minutes with like weird like pitter pattery sounds?
I've seen some of those in New York art museums. So
yeah, and you're just like, what? Like that didn't, like, maybe that meant something for the artist, but like I want to make stuff that people can relate to that's still experimental. Like I want people to get emotionally invested with my projects, even though they're very unconventional. And I felt like there wasn't really a space for that. And so seeing, especially just Pretend That You Love Me, and to see somebody being so real with their life, and while still like messing around with like, you know, staging stuff and like doing all this stuff, and like the self-reflective documentary aspects were just so powerful and potent for me to like witness, that it was just it was just something that I well, it resonated with me to the point where I forced you guys to watch it and talk about it on your podcast. So.
and we're glad you did.
I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for the suggestion. It's not something I would seek out on my own, and I enjoyed it. It was a weird way to wake up, but
very opposite from your viewing last night, I suppose.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was fun. You know, I got a little wavy and watched a bunch of fucking action movies. I'm cool with that.
I know. I think Casher and I both party. I didn't really like party last night. I just stayed up till 6. Yeah.
I like movie partied with the homie.
Yeah.
We watched fucking 7 movies yesterday. So
Jesus Christ. Whoa. I don't have the stamina for that.
Yeah, man. We started with 300 and ended with fucking Marvel's Endgame. So well, it's like my buddy wanted to watch Deadpool 2, and I was like, fuck, okay. And it was more enjoyable than I thought, than I remembered. And then I was like, fuck this. Let's watch a good Taika Waititi let's watch Thor Ragnarok. Fuck it. I can't find anything else streaming right now. Watch that. I was like, fuck it. We're going in. We're done. We're watching.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen those in like 2 years. I was like, fuck it. We're going in.
That's like the cinematic equivalent of a mukbang. Like you're just going on just like self-hatred, just like need content.
It was 2 fucked up film nerds trying to like toss fucking facts about the movie to each other the whole fucking time. It was probably the most annoying fucking thing ever.
Viggo Mortensen broke his toe on the
yeah, essentially that the whole fucking night, dude.
I feel like this movie, go back to this movie real quick. Speaking of cape shit, I feel like this is what YouTube is supposed to be, or what it was supposed to be. And I think that's part of it is added melancholy to it, not intended by Joel Haver. Or maybe he acknowledges it in some way, I'm sure. But I love this, and I'm glad that this has, even though it's not the most on his channel, 500,000 views. Which,
yeah, it's got quite a lot of views for something like this, man.
And how many people finish that? Probably less than half, almost certainly less than half, you know. But that's fine. And honestly, how many people saw Moonlight in theaters, do you think? I'm sure we could get numbers, but something like that.
Come to my fucking town.
Any indie film, or even a really indie film. I'm not saying A24 indie got a big distributor. I'm not saying Fox Searchlight. I'm saying indie films.
Some Bollywood shit.
Yeah, well, Bollywood is a billion people in it.
That's a joke.
Oh yeah, so yeah, if it's not white people watching, it doesn't count. Thanks, Casher. Okay. We'll be calling the Southern Poverty Law Center after this.
No, it's refreshing as fuck, man. And I'm excited to dive more into it.
It inspires me to be more creative, even though I'm not a filmmaker, but it inspires me to take more risks and to take myself more serious. I do stand up. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, Scotty, but because I've kind of gotten over it, but I had this thing where I was like, oh, I'm an open micer. And then after a while, I was like, no, I'm a fucking stand up. And now I'm like doing more than open mics, but it's like, there's kind of that mentality with everything, especially with, I think some writers have it, musicians, it's kind of weird because there's more of a DIY punk rock attitude that's more accepted there. Right. And that's always what drew me away from filmmaking, despite that I do love cinema as an art form. I love studying cinema just as a, casual, as a viewer. But just getting production and lights and dealing with college students and film sets, and I never wanted to.
You could see in a lot of his shots, he had a lot of DIY equipment. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
it brings me back to the old fucking Steadicam that Adrian made back in like high school.
Oh yeah, you had the old
piece of
rock.
fucking.
I built a Steadicam myself with shit from Lowe's.
Do you still have that?
2x4s.
Oh, I don't.
That's a fucking ancient relic, man. I would love to have seen that.
Yeah.
I think I have. Was it made out of PVC?
No, ours was even more ghetto. It was blocks of wood and a fucking dumbbell.
I'd have to find a picture of it. It was made out of like some metal shit. I don't know, and like piece of like
blood of orphans.
I made one out of PVC, and I was wondering if you made it from the same website as I did.
No, I think it was some obscure YouTube video that I saw.
It worked, man. You used that shit for years.
It did work.
It did its job, man. Man, we should have had a fucking.
It just makes me think. Yeah, it's like just because your film can't run in a festival doesn't mean you're not a filmmaker. I have
which
to
is also
keep telling myself that.
I'm not trying to trigger Casher here or anyone, but capitalism. Just because your film can't make money doesn't mean it's not artistically valid.
I think I think
just because
the world
even
has come to a point where
even in the nonprofit world, like, let's say art museums. And so we were kind of joked about like pretentious art films you might see in a museum. Some of, I've seen film stuff in museums, art exhibits I've really liked, and some stuff I'm like, this is Jesus Christ. But so I'm not opposed to that in general. I try to be pretty open-minded, but I think even that, you're kind of serving bourgeois interests, you're serving donors, nonprofits, the intergenerational wealth that might, patronize the arts. And so, granted, you're doing it on a Google platform, but you can truly have a grassroots sort of movement on something like YouTube if the algorithm doesn't screw you, which is always the thing.
So something that I was very inspired by as I got deeper into the folk filmmaking movement as well is like the rejection of anybody being able to make money on your stuff, almost like obviously like Joel puts like ads on his videos to like feed himself and stuff, but like he doesn't make stuff whereas like he like working with distributors is not something that he's ever, or like, well, maybe it's something he once was interested in, but it's not like he's made content talking about how like that's something he rejects now. And something that I got really fascinated by was just the lower, like not lower quality, but just lower fidelity filmmaking. Like I have this flip video camera that I started shooting with recently, just like when I was like, you know what, I am so tired of hearing about 4K. I'm going to start shooting 640 by 480. And
dude.
and I
Inland Empire.
And I just think there's something to be said about like rejecting, like, no, like I won't be your shill, I'm not gonna be your money maker, like, and which is like what original punk rock was always about. Always like,
and you have analogs. You have not really trauma Dogma 95, that Lars von Trier thing, which I've actually never seen a Dogma 95 film, but I know what it is. They have literal tenets, not the Christopher Nolan film, but literal tenets of like, you can't do this, you can't have, certain props, can't have a gun. Some of it seems a bit excessive, but I understand the radical aspect of it and appreciate that. Although I would stop short of codifying anything, because then that's just circle jerky, and don't do that.
I agree.
I think about, when we first started throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck. It was when I was living at the SAC and I had all the friends around, so we were always filming shit. It was pretty easy to piece by piece put movement together. But then the second film, it was me and Sumner, just us, and then most of it was just me by myself with the camera, because it's hard to get people to do shit when you don't have money, and a lot of people don't have time, or a lot of people around here, that's just not really a thing that happens. It's like, do this indie movie. So, and it's like, well, I'm tired of making movies about me, but like, I'm here and I'll film it and do it, so I have to, so and plus my second film was very much about the place I was mentally and stuff, so it gets kind of dark, sour a little bit, but just setting up every shot myself and doing it all myself. I don't know, there was vindication seeing a project like his get 500,000 views, like a feature like that, especially when it's similar to how I was setting up my own shots. And so I don't know, it's just very important that I watched this movie, so I'm glad you recommended it to me. And it's nice that this third and final TML movie that we've been working on, we got, Dimitri and Matt and Sumner all back to help and stuff. It's kind of like I don't know, it's been nice change.
Yeah, I'm in it for a minute.
Yeah, we gotta work on that.
Well, ours it was, I don't know, just, well, not, I wasn't trying to be like, me, but it's like just adding to your thing of like, all right, Scott's back in the country for a few weeks, let's get some coverage. The problem with that, and it is interesting, you got to find, thank God for the community online, because it's going to be difficult to find in Arkansas, quite frankly.
Well, sometimes the videos and films I make are homemade therapy. So
For sure. You're an artist.
so watching that, his film made me think about what he was going through personally to project that on screen.
I was coming
Powerful.
up with, I'm trying to get back into writing more because I used to write not even scripts as much, but like short stories and stuff. But I've been really wanting to get back into writing and other stuff other than fart jokes. And I was coming up with ideas of like, I need to do this because we should talk about this in another podcast when we have like a movie roundup, like a catch up sort of thing, one of these weeks maybe. But it even made me think of like, this is going to sound weird, The Matrix 4, how personal that movie is, despite obviously being on the opposite end of the like economic spectrum of filmmaking. And it almost empowers me as an artist to be more personal and be more intimate, even though that's almost actively discouraged even by the word content, which that word itself is intended to commodify and strip away the artistry of whatever you're making.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts on this movie?
Fuck content.
Fuck content. Sometimes I catch myself using the word. I'm like, damn it.
I know, dude. It's like
we've been conditioned.
I guess the final thing that I just wanted to bring up is that, well, I was really excited for Kino Cowboy to see this because a huge thing like in the folk filmmaking movement is like, you go do it too. And like, I just love that you were already doing it like before, like you didn't even know who like, and that was kind of what inspired some of my earlier like large scale projects was like, oh yeah, like, but something that I just love is that like, I always show people stuff and then I like beg them to make their own, as just like, no, now you have to go make a feature film. You can't escape me begging you to make a feature film.
No other time period have you had an iPhone that films in 4K in your pocket. Go do it.
Yeah.
Just fuck it. Fucking around. Who cares?
And you can edit it on your iPhone. You can
Yeah.
do the whole thing on your cell phone.
Which is fucking nuts.
Wild shit. Yeah.
Although at the same, some of you shouldn't make a film. I'm just saying, some of you. I'm gonna, dude. I can get kind of elitist and be like, some of your this everybody is a creator now. I don't know. Some of you can wash dishes or whatever. No, I've done that.
No. Just send it to me first. I'll decide if it's patrician or not. And then...
yeah, I'll do the Caesar thumbs up, thumbs down. I'll do that. Because
don't send it to me. You cannot send me any movies unless the budget is over $2 million.
Yeah. It's not a legit movie unless it's, at least 10 million. So fuck them. Anyway, I think that wraps up our little discussion today. Go check that film out. I'm going to have different links in the description if you want to watch Flower Hour or Movement or whatever, Thanks, sir, for...
he's going to link my Facebook, and if anyone wants to talk, I'm kind of lonely.
Castry's been having some back problems, so,
How's your dad doing?
He's not good.
But has he ever really been good?
Oh, shit. No.
Yeah. On that note, thanks for tuning in, fellas. Thanks for coming, Scotty.
Thanks for having me.